know, it is the third Friday of the month. Imagine that, Darrell, already 3 in. And, of course, on the first and the third Fridays, we have Presiding Commissioner Darrell Skiles sit in with us and have a nice brief chat about county happenings and your little journey over to Sedalia.
Been a lot of journeys, actually.
Yeah, good morning. Had quite a few. And you've had some time to be a grandpa. In the last couple of weeks, too.
We took a little time we were taking care of some grandkids for better part of a week, and so Marianne and I. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks, and yet at the same time, the county stuff just keeps on going. So
doesn't.
I missed a couple of meetings at the courthouse, and at the same time, though, I've been on the phone and working on this and that, and I've been to meetings, and it just never seemed to quit. To tell you the truth, you just really can't. We found out that you really can't get away from it unless you get plumb out of state and get the phone turned off. You know,
that's kind of the way I am. If I'm out of earshot, I'm getting better, and if I'm a couple hours out of earshot, I really feel like
these days with technology, it's hard to get out of earshot, but you got to get out of viewshed and you got to get out of earshot. We'll talk about viewshed in a minute, and a little bit on another issue. But at any rate, it's a great time to be in Dent County. Have you ever seen any prettier weather than what we're having now?
No, this has been fantastic. And Darrell, what was it, about 4 weeks ago, we were dry as a bone, and now the rain we've gotten and how green it's gotten.
July the 21st, we issued a burn ban.
That's right.
And it's a good thing we did, because shortly after that it started raining, and it's rained ever since. So anyway, no.
Which, by the way, the burn ban is no longer in effect.
The commission did rescind the burn ban a little while back. So, but we've been getting good rain, and things are looking up. But things were getting pretty dire, very dire. It was serious and extremely serious, and the wildfires and getting out of just way too easy. So we did put that burn ban in effect July 21st, and here I believe it's not this week, but last week I believe it was, the commission did go ahead and rescind the burn ban, because things had perked up enough to where we could get by it. And since then we've had even more rain. This past week we had between 2 and 4 inches of rain reported across the county.
Depending on where you were,
Yeah. Some parts of the county a little over a week ago got 3 and 4 inches of rain within about 1 hour period, and that might have been a tad bit excessive there in places, but that's okay. Filled ponds back up and some things. It's funny. This week we had almost 3 inches of rain at my house, and the creek never even got muddy. It just all soaked right in.
Went.
So
yeah.
Anyway,
one of the nice things, though, the people may not be aware of, Darrell, and I know a lot of people have been listening to these shows many times. We don't always talk about the road conditions, but when it gets so dry as it did when we were in drought conditions, you literally can't do anything with those roads as far as grading them is concerned.
When it gets to where it's that dry and been that dry for so long, and there's no moisture in that road itself, it's very difficult to do any grading and have a real positive effect, because it's just powder, and you're just grading powder, and it just you'll just almost make the situation worse instead of better. So it's much better now, and the crews are back to normal grading. I know the roads are rough. They always get that way this time of year, the washboard situation, but they're getting around them. They're grading every single day, and cutting brush. Brush is always an issue.
It doesn't stop growing.
Nope,
Even when it stops raining.
Even when it's dry, it continues to grow. But if you have a wet year, it really gets difficult to get around, and it takes roughly a year to make the full circle all the way around the county, get everything cut. But at any rate, they've been doing that, replacing culverts. And again, as these storms would blow through, they'd be more serious in other places, in parts of the county, and the crews would be out checking for wind damage and getting limbs and trees off the roads, and cleaning out culverts is an ongoing deal. Replacing culverts, a lot of that goes on this time of year, and cleaning out low water crossings. And I know Commissioner Larson has been looking at, got a couple of low water crossings that they want to work on and replace. And typically August, September are the times when you can do that the best. This year it was a little bit earlier, but the crews were busy with other work. So anyway, a lot of work going on, though.
And also, when you had some of these downpours, Darrell, that a lot of this debris that was floating around because it was so dry got just rushed right down into a lot of these culverts or low water crossings, started to back up.
Right.
And I know that the road crews are out there and they're scraping away sometimes excessive brush along the sides of the roads, because they just, with a short rain burst, they can clog up that culvert, and you got water running over, or even in some cases, some of those low water bridges. And I know they've had crews out there removing that debris to get it out of the way.
Right. Yep, it's an ongoing deal, and
Yeah.
you're right. And there's always stuff coming down in the fields, in the woods, and things, and then it washes down to the ditch, and eventually, it'll get to a culvert, and that's why the crews are then out. When we get a heavy rain, then one of the things the crews are doing then is just getting the pickups and ride the roads and look for those trouble spots and try to get them. And they do. They get to a lot of culverts and get them some junk cleaned out of the way of those culverts before it becomes a major. Because if the culvert gets totally stopped up, then the water's going to run over the road, and then you end up with a ditch cut across the road. So yeah. So anyway,
very good.
That's what they've been working on, and repairing chip and seal all the time. This is a good time of the year where we get a lot of that done, and it goes down good. So
very good.
A lot of work going on all the time.
Yes, there is. So one of the things that I know you've been attending a lot of meetings, so I'm going to kind of just jump past you for sales tax first, if you don't mind. Can we do that
Okay,
first?
we can. I didn't have my notes on it. You probably got them there, but yeah, the sales
I do
tax.
somewhere here, yeah.
Danita Williams come in with sales tax report.
Yes, sir.
Sales tax was up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is. There we go.
Yep.
Right in the middle.
Yep. Sales tax from last year. Well, of course, it's hard for us to compare year to date with last year again because last year we had the big $1.5 million at Department of Revenue because of their screw up. They withheld, but for the month though it was up. It was up substantial over what the same month was last year. So year to date it's up like 70% over last year. But at any rate, it's very good, very good, and that's across the board for general revenue, law enforcement, and the two jail funds as well as road and bridge. So that's looking good for the year. Now we're still waiting for the other shoe to drop for the other almost $1 million that Department of Revenue maintains that their mistake resulted in, and so we're still working with the attorney and with Department of Revenue on that, how that repayment period will work, rather than just a surprise, take it all at one time. We're gonna try to work that out, spread it out.
It's nice to see though the sales tax revenues continue to rise.
Yes,
and we know
sir.
the prices of things have gone up, way up, and that helps that rise. But it's still nice to see it being above the level.
It contributes to a part of the rise as
bet.
well.
Absolutely.
Yep, inflation absolutely does. Of course, at the same time, inflation results in increased cost of us doing business just like everybody else. And for road and bridge, a load of diesel that used to be $14,000 or so is $28,000 or $30,000 or more, and we go through diesel pretty quick, pretty fast. So same way with gasoline, but diesel's our big one that we go through so much because that's what runs all the trucks and graders and the equipment out there.
Vicious circle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is, and the increase in sales tax and so on hasn't begun to keep up with what the additional costs are.
No.
And I don't have to. I know the people listening to this; they see that in their own personal pocketbooks as well. So it's kind of an interesting time to try to balance all of that. So, and that's kind of what we've talked about at some of these meetings and things, and the frustration.
It has started to inch down, but it's still need a long way to go compared to what it was just a year and a half ago, when you were, it was not even $2.
Right, $1.80 or so, $1.80, $1.85 or 90, and now we're paying $3.50, $3.80, $4 and more, and it was getting up near close to $5 as far as for what our over the road diesel. It's a killer for road and bridge department, killer also for the sheriff's department. For the cost of fuel. I know sheriff's department across the state had factored in, maybe $3.50, thinking it'd probably go up some, but nobody had planned on $4 a gallon, and it's just a tough time. I heard, I believe it's down Ozark County where sheriff was going to end up having to lay off some deputies and some dispatch people simply because of the increased cost of trying to do business. And we're nothing like that or anything. I don't want to alarm anybody, but that's just the situation that's going on across the state and across households and everything. We get caught up in these increased costs just the same as the taxpayers and folks listening do. Yep.
Well, and you know as well as I do, we talked about this every time we do a budget, Darrell, and when you have crazy economy like we had when you guys were trying to put this budget together, you do your best guess estimate, but you're talking about maybe like Ozark County, they may have used the previous year's estimate on fuel. They're already out of fuel. As far as their budget is, they don't have any money left.
They had actually projected increases, and they had actually added, I believe the presiding down there told me a couple of $100,000 to that budget, in excess of what what they already had projected budget-wise, and they had already just increased costs had already burned through that, and they were just at a point the money just isn't there.
Yeah.
And that's pretty tough. And they're not alone in that.
No.
This is being felt across the state, and we'll be hearing more about it, I feel sure, from other areas as we go along. So at any rate, but
All right, moving on.
We're sailing along pretty decent right now, and glad of it. The CART funds for Road and Bridge, those funds are up year to date as well.
Sure.
But when we're on again here, we'll have those recent CART funding updates for August, when we're back on here in September. So
Very good.
Anyway, but yeah, a lot of meetings, and that's probably the main thing I was going to talk about.
So why don't we start with your MRPC meeting, because that was on a day that you actually were not in the office as well.
Yep.
But you went to the TAC, External Relations, and MRPC,
Right.
correct?
Yes, sir. Yep. Had Merrimack Regional Planning Commission meetings all afternoon and evening on that day. We had a Transportation Advisory Committee meeting first. One of the main things we did on that one was we just kind of received an update on what's on what they call the STIP, and that's the State Transportation Improvement Program. And that is the program that is basically pretty much set in stone, projects and work that the department is going to be doing. There is a bridge here in Dent County, another bridge that is on that. I forget now what the number is. We've gotten a lot of bridges replaced in Dent County over the last few years.
We have.
And we've been very fortunate in that regard. And I've had other commissioners ask me even how in the world we managed to get so many bridges done. And well, you just got to keep working on them. And you got to keep pounding on it and make it one of your priorities and things that we do. But we can't get that done by ourselves. We've gotten good cooperation from other members of that Transportation Advisory Committee, other counties. And the way that works, first of all, let me back up a little bit. Every county gets 3 voting members on the Transportation Advisory Committee for their county to represent their interest,
Right.
and so on. And I do want to mention I did introduce Sally Burbridge to the Transportation Advisory Committee. She will be replacing Ray Walden as one of our members on that. So myself, Gary Brown, and Sally Burbridge will be the 3 members. Bob Parsons here, that everybody knows, serves as an alternate on that committee. So if one of us can't make it, Bob is great and faithful to either be on Zoom with us at the meetings, or usually they're live and in person at the meetings as well, and always engaged and knows what's going on. So we've been very fortunate to always have our voting contingency there. Some of the counties aren't quite so lucky in that regard, but we have been, and we've got always had very good and really appreciated Ray's work on that committee over the years. He's served as chairman of the TAC and has always done a great job representing the county's interest in getting work done here in the county. So at any rate, but we've gotten a lot of work and stuff done. We've gotten, you look back and you think about it, we've gotten shoulders added, wider shoulders added, and wider pavement added onto all the major highways coming into Salem, so forth. 19 all the way through. Highway 68 has been vastly improved. We got 32 shoulders added on it, going east and west out of Salem. Got shoulders added and on Highway 72 when it takes off, go down to Bunker, and all those things. It may not seem like much, but it can be those are major improvements to get a little bit of shoulder, and so that the edge of the road, you don't just fall off the world and into an abyss if you do drive off the pavement. And we've gotten wider pavement, wider shoulders, and that's through working through the Transportation Advisory Committee and making that a priority at all of those meetings and getting help on that.
And a lot of that is because of the bigger trucks that we have. We had U.S. Foods that sends out a lot of trucks. The mines send out a lot of trucks. The logging industry sends out trucks. And even to get to Echo Bluff State Park and things of that nature and Montauk, you have to send these big trucks down there with very narrow roads. And I think the people have understood that.
And we've had to drive that point home through the TAC committee, and we've had great support from those other county TAC members about those issues that we were dealing with and why they were important. And the same way then with the bridges and what was going on there, and that's why we've been able to get help getting some of these bridges done. We do have a new bridge scheduled coming up for next year, south of Salem, here on Highway 19. a new bridge will be putting in a new bridge down across Gladden Creek down at what we call Standing Rock. Now, how they're going to do that as far as some highway realignment and so on, don't know for sure yet. That we'll be getting that information here before long. So, any rate, so we did work on that. So one of the other things we did though was we did look at the STIP and what's actually already in the works is kind of set in concrete they're going to do. What they wanted us to do is look at other projects that we'd already identified that we wanted them to work on and see if those are still top priorities, if they needed to be rearranged. And so we pretty much left all of the others as they were. It's still at one of our top priorities for our entire region is to get a bridge out on Highway TT at Sligo across Crooked Creek. It's a low water crossing now, so that one is still a major priority, and that's another situation where I've gotten some great help from some other counties to chime in with us to say, yeah, you need to, MoDOT, you need to really look at that and fix that situation. Right. So it is actually in the what they call scoping now, which means that basically MoDOT has assigned people to figure out what would have to be done size-wise and right-of-way if there was have to be right-of-way acquired and so on. And that's basically the first thing that has to be done before they actually commit any other funds to the project. So, but it's moving forward, and we're going to get there with it too. Yeah. So, anyway, but when you look at all the bridges we've got new bridges on Highway H west of Salem. We've got 2 new bridges on Highway 3272 going east. One right here.
Out on F too.
Yep. And on F Highway past the airport, those bridges were bad. Out and then east here, right at the edge of town on Spring Creek, and on out further across Dry Valley. We got a new one out on FF over across Norman Creek.
Right.
So we've been pretty fortunate in getting some of these improvements done. And I know another one that we've tried to get their attention on, of course, is the old bridge across. I can't even think of the name of it now, but out at Boss, that little creek there.
Little curved bridge.
Yeah, the little curved bridge, yeah. So anyway.
And I think they finally have noticed it now because it's gone from being structurally sound to...
It's getting weaker.
It's getting weaker, yeah. So the grading on that, I think Preston Kramer said it had finally started to go down a little bit.
Yeah, Huzzah. Yeah, a little Huzzah Creek there. So anyway, that's just all work that we've been doing on that, but... It was a good meeting. I want to mention, though, something that did come up in that meeting, and we'll talk about a little bit, Stan, is there's a deal has come up called Ozark Run Scenic Byways. And this is a national program, a national Scenic Byways program that states buy into and so on. And what it amounts to, we've had a group out of St. Louis that has decided that it would be wonderful if, and they're pretty neat programs in most ways, and we'll get to that. But a group out of St. Louis has decided that it would be great if there was what's designated a stretch of highways running from St. Louis down through Washington County, down Highway 21. There'd be a spur takeoff of it at Potosi that would run up into Franklin County and join up with I-44. But it would be a spur of the Scenic Byway, so it would be under Scenic Byway designation as well. And these are official designations that actually, and they come with consequences, and we'll get to that. But Highway 21 all the way down through Washington County, and then would hook up with Highway 106, cut across, or actually come all the way. 21 would come all the way on across Reynolds County,
right,
and then catch up with Highway 109. I'm sorry, catch up with Highway 109, then cut across then Shannon County to meet up with Highway 19 at Eminence, and then take 19 south all the way down to Thayer and meet up with Highway 160, and then 160 would cut across the southern part of Oregon County, across the southern part of Howell County, Ozark County, and on over into Taney County, and terminate over just north of Branson at Highway 65. And it's it's a nice deal. It's just a deal where they would advertise to folks, if you want to take a long, beautiful scenic route, this is a national scenic byway. Here's the deal. Here's the problem that comes up though. And I like everything about it. I have no problem with any part of it except
the fine print.
There you go. And if you look up the application if you go to MoDOT, look up Ozark Run Scenic Byway. On that application, first of all, right off the bat, there's a bit of a problem, and I was looking at this. Now, none of the Scenic Byway comes through Dent County, okay? It goes all the way around all of them, but these proposals come up all the time, so I can see down the line, it'd be something for us to deal with too. But at any rate, this issue came up at our Transportation Advisory Committee meeting because Washington County is a part of that TAC. And that Scenic Byway would run all the way down through Washington County on Highway 21. So it came up, and there was discussion about, oh, this is a wonderful deal. Okay, yeah, kind of, sort of, but hold the bus a minute. And I brought this up. First of all, I was talking to Oregon County Commissioner Dave Stubblefield. If you look on their application to get this Scenic Byway done, it puts on page 1 the list of supporters for this project. One of the list of supporters is Ozark County Commission, Ozark County. Mm-hmm. Ozark County Presiding Commissioner Dave Stubblefield had never heard of the program, never heard of the project. Nobody had ever said a thing about it. How in the world did they get them listed as supporters? And why were they listed as supporters when they never had even been advised that such a thing was being proposed?
Exactly.
So that kind of set his hair, I can tell you. And I know talked to Shannon County commissioners. They didn't know anything was even going on in the offing. But here's where the problem runs in. If you are a private landowner along this proposed Scenic Byway, you all of a sudden have your property restricted. You cannot use your property now as you had before without falling under state and or federal regulation as to what you can or cannot do with it. And Stan, that's not right. You don't get a break on your taxes. You still are expected to show up and pay your taxes in full. But the state and the feds can control what you can or cannot do with your property under certain circumstances, and especially under the area of signage. Let's say you had a prime piece of property on one of those roads, and somebody that had a resort down the road said, "Hey, Stan, man, that would be a great place. I'll give you $2,000 a year if you let me put just a 6x6 sign, even it just says, hey, stay at John Henry's resort and amenities." Oh yeah, great.
600 feet ahead, right?
Great, man. $2,000 a year. That more than pay my tax. Oh, wait a minute. Oh man, Stan, sorry. You're on the Scenic Byway. The Scenic being once, and it's in the language. Once a route is designated a Scenic Byway, no new signage can be put up of advertising, of any kind of advertising devices. That's the exact words. No new advertising devices can put up. Now, under the federal part of the thing is no billboard. New billboards can put up. But you go on and look at the expanded rules, no new advertising devices, period, can put up, unless it's actually on the property that is being advertised. I mean, if that was your resort, you can put a sign up for your resort. But you can't just put a sign up for somebody out there, whether you wanted to for free or whether you wanted to be paid for it. No, now your property falls under restrictions. Folks, I'm totally opposed to the state or the federal government being able to further regulate our use of our private property. And their whole deal is if it can't be put up anything within the view shed. Yeah, it's not just right along the road.
It's not the right of way. It's
all along anywhere within the view shed. Yeah. No signage. If you even had a barn that you wanted to put, you used to see the signs on the barns, from all these things. Well, no, you couldn't even paint a sign on a barn that was within the view shed. No, it's just wrong. It's just wrong from a private property standpoint. I have no problem with what they're trying to do to promote the area, tourism. We got a lot of folks that is their livelihood, and it's a great contributor, but it shouldn't come at the expense of people who own their property that suddenly find themselves falling under increased state or federal regulation for their property. I just don't think they should. But this particular one, Dink County doesn't necessarily have a dog in the fight, except we're all in this together as far as on these private property rights issues. And this issue came up over at our TAC meeting. And was kind of being presented as kind of, I felt like kind of a rah-rah, let's all get on board and support this. And so after I made the other folks there on that committee aware, there were, I think, 8 or 9 commissioners of other counties sitting there, and they all shook their heads and agreed, no, we wanted, wait a second, this thing needs to be looked at more. That's not where we're going. I can tell you this issue also has come up this past week at the Council of Governments south of us, takes in Texas County, Howell County, Oregon County, Shannon County, Ozark County, and they are very unhappy about it. MoDOT is already scheduling meetings in all these counties. There'll be several of them next week even, and I want to go to a couple of these just to hear the presentations. But I'll tell you, when a project like this gets started with false information about counties being in support, when they didn't even know about it, Howell County didn't know a thing about it until I talked to them, nor did Ozark County or Shannon County. So I just wanted to know, were they aware of this, and are they on board with this, and make sure they understand the property rights implications. And No, they weren't even aware that it was going on. Now all of a sudden they find MoDOT's already got meetings scheduled, and this is the state spending quite a bit of money supporting this thing. I actually talked to the there actually was a letter of support that they have from Franklin County, and I know the Franklin County Presiding very well. He's president of our commission association, and I spoke to him this week about this thing, and he said they actually signed that letter of support last year, but they had no idea there was any property rights implications on their landowners in their county, and that they would have to be reevaluating their support for this.
So somebody came down and proposed, hey, what would you think if we did this? Would you support this? If we designated a highway through your county and say, hey, we'd like this to be a part of virtually a southern Missouri trail from St. Louis to Branson that is scenic.
It's a 300-mile jaunt, beautiful. It does great to promote tourism, and hey, all that part sounds good until you, as you say, you get in the fine print and the gritty details, and then you go, oh, wait a second. And and generally the people that are saying, oh yeah, we approve this is fine, are people who don't own property that's going to be negatively impacted.
Well, that's true.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And so if you back it up a little bit and say, okay, would you be so interested in doing this if your property suddenly fell under this regulation and control? Well, you'd probably have a little different view. And as commissioners of the counties, that's one of the things we have to take into consideration.
Right.
Or these things have an impact. And there's no reason why on the state and federal level they couldn't remove that portion out of that program and still maintain the integrity of what they're trying to do, which is simply promote it. So at any rate, that's a little issue that come up, and the folks at our TAC weren't too interested and too keen on it when we got done discussing it, and I know from what I've heard, the TAC committee in the Regional Planning Commission south of us are pretty unhappy about it as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
So I'm assuming there'll be good attendance at some of these public meetings from these members who attend these TAC committees and having a lot of good questions.
Hopefully there will be, because this thing is just kind of popped up without much fanfare or anybody knowing anything about it.
It showed up in a press release here that they've already done all the work and they've got brochures, I think.
Yeah.
Never heard a word about it.
Yeah, but the brochures fail to mention very much about the private property implications.
It's 100 and some odd pages of this description, I'm thinking, seriously.
The application's, I think, 120 pages long, and
this is the craziest thing I ever saw, and they've got all this stuff listed. Who went and got all this information without talking to these people?
A group in St. Louis called
without
Scenic,
talking
Missouri.
to the governments at hand. They didn't talk to those governments, so they would have had letters of support from every commission.
Yep. So and they did. They got letters of support from Franklin County Commission, as well as Iron County Commissioners, Washington County Commission. They got a letter of support from Washington County Commission, but again, I have to wonder, and I haven't had a chance to talk to them, but I know Franklin County Presiding indicated that they were not made aware of these other parts of this program that they'd have to take another look at. So we'll see what happens on it, but whatever. If they want to approve it, that's their business, but at any rate.
But this is one of the reasons why you go to these meetings personally. And you interject when you see something like this. 'Cause I looked it up too. I wanted to see when the public hearings were going to be held, and they had none scheduled. I thought, well, you say you have a number of public hearings that are going to be scheduled, and none are there. Yeah, at the time, and I thought this is the craziest.
They have been scheduled now.
Yeah, they have now.
Yeah,
but they weren't at the time that they released this. I said, how can you present this without even having one of these meetings scheduled? Mm-hmm. But the thing that got to me is that it was already presented like it was a done deal.
Right. Well, there's been, like I say, there's been this group up in St. Louis who none of them have property that would be affected, and they've been working through MoDOT, which is kind of frustrating. I know one of the commissioners I visited with South was very, very unhappy that MoDOT was already organizing and spending money to set up for meetings and things to get this ball rolling and get this done. And they've been left totally in the dark up to this point.
So is MoDOT going to get benefited by federal money if this goes through?
Well, I think what the angle what it comes at is that, once they get this done, well, then that creates a deal of where, it would create another argument to get more money funded for. Okay, now this is a national and state scenic byway, so therefore there needs to be some extra money come from the feds and from the state to improve this portion here and improve this, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. If whatever we can use to get money to improve our highways, roads, and bridges, whatever we can do to the point of where we give up our property rights. I'm not.
Yeah.
I say whatever. I don't really mean whatever if it means giving up our citizens' rights for their property. Because, like I say, they don't get a break on their property taxes. No. They only get a restriction on what they can use it for.
But is the Scenic Byway going to put signs in your property that says this is the National Scenic Byway and you can't touch them?
Well, now see, there is an exclusion for official route designation, and I mean MoDOT would still be free, and the state still be free, and the feds be free to put up whatever signage they want to on the right of way.
But you can't tell them no.
But the private landowner, no, you couldn't put a sign up for you.
Something doesn't sound right with that, Darrell.
No, it's a little fishy deal. So anyway, that's one of the things that came up, and we had some discussion about that, and the commissioners at our meeting weren't very enthused about it, and now, like I say, that was just coming through just one county. And unfortunately, there was nobody from Washington County. This is one of the things that's disappointing. There was not a single representative from Washington County's TAC, other than actually T.R. Dudley from over at Potosi, former Mayor Potosi, and he now does serve on the TAC. So I better take that back. He was there representing Washington County, but he was not aware of these issues either that had come up. He had just seen earlier in the week that this scenic byway was being proposed, and thought it looked pretty good. And on the surface, it looks fine. It looks nice, and it is nice, except for these little problems that we've talked about. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a very limited number of miles that end up getting approved in it, because I don't see Shannon County, I don't see Oregon County, I don't see Howell County, and I don't see Ozark County jumping on board with this thing with the restrictions that it has. So, but anyway, we'll see. But I want to go to a couple of these meetings, probably this coming week if I can get away at all, and because I want to hear the presentations and see, and I want to hear what people's
give them their fair shot at explaining this.
Yeah, but I know what the regulations say, and they are what they are, and they can say what they want, but I know what it says in writing.
Yeah. So when you question it, hey, it's on your brochure, how can you say that's not going to happen?
Right. So anyway, so that was what come with that. Anyway, so moving on, there's been others, though, other things going on. One of the things, actually, I did attend this week, and I failed to mention Monday. I was there at the commission. Was that the commission meeting? This week has gotten by me. Anyway, had a meeting on Wednesday over at Waynesville of the SOP, and SOP actually stands for Sustainable Ozarks Partnership, and that really doesn't even begin to address what that organization is. But that was an organization that was formed to support Fort Leonard Wood, the mission, and support keeping. Several years ago there was the a move afoot to get.
To remove Fort Leonard Wood, wasn't it?
Well,
move it?
Across the country, there was a deal they called the BRAC, and it was the Base Realignment and Closure Committee across the United States that was looking at all military installations and things. And there was a danger that that we could even just totally lose Fort Wood. And there were installations that closed, one in Alabama in particular, different ones, and so there was a move. A real good move put afoot to get a group together that would really work for the Pulaski County and those counties particularly surrounding Fort Leonard Wood, and bring in Texas County, Phelps County, Laclede County, and to bring in and provide, just to show that there was broad community support and so on. And it's really expanded, and I've been to a couple of these meetings, and it's a good deal. That because it sends that message to the federal government, hey, this installation, you don't have these fractured deals of people that would like to see it shut down and gone, no, we fully support it. What do we need to do to keep it? And because it is a huge, people may not realize what a huge economic driver Fort Leonard Wood is, not just to that particular area right there, but we got people right here in Salem, Dent County that work over at Fort Wood, drive over there back. Have for years.
They now have flights going in and out of Fort Leonard Wood that you could go to Chicago with.
That's right. You now have commercial flights available to fly in and out of Fort Leonard Wood. A new hospital over there. If it's not totally built going to be. But at any rate, so it was a good meeting. We had several folks from here at Dent County that were there in attendance, as well as myself. But we had several. The governor came in. Governor Mike Parson, he come in to share that he actually took his basic training. He was in the Army a few years ago, and he took his basic training right here at Fort Wood. But Governor Parson spoke, and they all spoke about how dedicated they are to also doing whatever we need to do, and the importance of having this particular organization, SOP, to work on this, to try to address issues. And one thing that makes Fort Leonard Wood unique is the fact that surrounding Fort Leonard Wood, there really are no, they mentioned that it's, and even the people from Washington commented how Fort Leonard Wood is kind of unique in that there's a lot of national forest surrounds it, so there's no issues there as far as competing business industries and things. There's really no outside interest anywhere in the neighborhood of the thing that create a problem for Fort Leonard Wood to operate and carry out its mission. It's a huge, it's like 60-some thousand acres is what Fort Leonard Wood is in total. Huge. And but at any rate, the mayor or Governor Parson was in and spoke along with Senator Blunt. They had him on video because there were votes going on in Washington. He couldn't leave, but Senator Blunt spoke. Actually, Senator Hawley did come in and speak to the group personally and express his wholehearted support, of course. And Congressman Hartzler, who's represents that district, and it's in her. So, so it was a good meeting. And then they also had General Bonner, who's the top commanding officer at Fort Leonard Wood, and speaking about the fort and his experiences there, and how much I enjoy and appreciate Missouri and having it, and it's incredible, and it really. And then they had a lady from the Department of Defense who represents the military and on site issues and things, a lawyer, and speaking highly of how well things work here with having Fort Leonard Wood here and how high it ranks. So anyway, but they want to keep that effort up, and with that partnership and that group of keeping it active and just to make sure that the next round of things that happen. And it's an interesting time for Department of Defense and military and things. They're down in their enlistments and all these things, and but they say this a base like this is very attractive to military leadership because of the fact that people like being assigned to come back here because of all the amenities around Fort Wood, with its proximity to the lakes and the rivers, and that the quality of life for their staff that do come to Fort Leonard Wood is rated very, very high.
Yeah, there was something put out, the Army put out, I can't remember, Darrell, exactly when, but I think it was about a year ago, where they had they ranked the strategic importance of the bases, the military bases that were in the United States. And Fort Leonard Wood was in the top three.
Yes.
Because of its location, because of its isolation, but because of its strategic needs, because nobody can get to it quickly.
That's right.
So if you have to fly over 3 states from the south, 5 states, 6 states from the west, 4 states from the west, 5 from the east, 4 from the north. There's no way to get to Fort Leonard Wood quickly, and Whiteman Air Force Base is another one that they said, again, very strategic.
Right. Because
of their location. So I remember when that BRAC thing came through, and I said, how could they even consider doing that?
Right.
To this one, it doesn't make any sense. Now, I knew the munitions plant that used to be in St. Louis, they've pretty well done away with that, yet they still have a core on site there. They have to protect this building that hasn't been used in 40 years.
Yeah.
That's not to me now. I'm like, okay, I can see we could take stuff away from that, but not Fort Leonard Wood. That's an active, moving, living base that continues.
Right, and it isn't just
basic.
It isn't just basic training either.
No.
It does basic training, but it also is the schools where they train for various disciplines within the Army of all kinds of different things. And what they all are, I don't even know. I don't know if they'll even let you know what all they all are. But it is the place where there's intensive training, then specialized training in their different schools and things, and it's very, very, very impressive. And as you say, its location sets it up to be easily defended, and again with Whiteman Air Force Base up there west of Sedalia, that just it just works together
Yep.
nicely in that regard. So anyway, so it's a great asset to our region. We want to do everything we can to see that it is protected from cuts and anything like that. And so that's part of what that meeting was about. And
That's good.
Was glad to go. That's about the third one of those that I've been to, and it's very important that
I'm sure you
keep
learn
that.
a ton every time you go.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting. Then yesterday, I actually I did not make the commission meeting then yesterday either. I attended several years ago. I was asked if I'd be interested in serving on Senator Blunt's Ag Advisory Council, and we get information sent to us from time to time to questions about ag and ag issues and so on, being on that. But every year, Senator Blunt will, with Farm Bureau hosting it, will host an Ag Advisory Council get-together up at the State Fair at the Taylor Woods Youth Center and the Sale Pavilion. So I've attended several of those. So at any rate, I did attend that one yesterday as well. And it's a very good meeting, and it gives you a chance to sometimes catch some of their staff people and visit with them about some issues and things. And so it's always very well attended. Of course, retiring Senator Blunt was there, of course, and talked. One of the things they talked about was a lake up in that was built up in Sullivan County, and it actually was built with it's about a 2,300 acre lake that was built to provide needed water for the communities up in that area, and it was actually built. I believe, if I understood them right, it was like 83 landowners that had property that had to be acquired. Said there was no eminent domain used to acquire the property, that they all worked together to get this thing to fruition. And Senator Blunt worked very hard through appropriations over up in Washington to see that, because it was done through the Natural Resource Conservation Service, to address some water and drainage issues, but also to provide water. And
I'm sure the Corps of Engineers was involved.
In this day and time. So anyway, and then actually the Sullivans of Sullivan County passed I can't remember now, I believe a half-cent sales tax to help fund improvements and necessary things that they'd need to make the thing come together. I think they passed it by like 80% margin to do this project. So anyway, it was a nice little project that those people up there wanted to make sure folks knew that he'd been instrumental in helping get done. So, with every politician, there's some things that they've supported or done that you didn't care for, but there've been a lot of things that they've been involved in and sometimes involved in behind the scenes to get done. And so this was just one of the things that they wanted to point out that he'd been very helpful with. As a matter of fact, the folks in that area had decided to name the lake the Roy Blunt Lake. Roy Blunt Reservoir, I think they called it. So that was kind of an interesting deal. But at any rate, retiring Senator Blunt spoke. Senator Hawley was in attendance at that meeting as well, and he spoke at length too about the importance of agriculture. And also in attendance and speaking was Congressman Hartzler. Our own Congressman Jason Smith spoke, and along with Congressman Billy Long from the Southwest Missouri. And one of the things that they all commented was that the current administration is the most un-agriculture friendly administration maybe in the history of the country. That there seems to be a philosophy there that we'd be better off if we had to purchase all of our food from outside of the country.
Well, they want to purchase all the oil from outside the country.
Yeah.
Why not?
So purchase all our food and all our energy needs from outside the country, and that's a pretty tough thing to do. But these folks, I can tell you, are committed to agriculture in our country and in our state, in our region. So it was a good meeting to go to. Also had a chance to visit with some MDC, Department of Conservation folks, about the ongoing efforts on feral hogs. Had a nice visit about that, and some progress they're making on that. And
really haven't heard many updates on that lately.
We'll be having an update soon.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I thought we would, because of the gentleman that's here now. We would get maybe quarterly updates.
Well,
or something.
they've been working on it.
I know,
and they're gathering some data. So I think a little later this fall, sometime here, we'll have an update. Some more better information to report on that. But I was glad to have a chance to visit with him about some of those issues. I got a chance to visit with some of Senator Blunt and Hawley's staff about the importance of continuing to secure Rural Schools Act funding, which is the national forest funding that comes to schools and the counties for roads, bridges, and education. So anyway, it was a good meeting, and so that was it. Marion was able to go with me up there to that, and we made one pass down through the machinery thing and got in the car and headed home. And we had to try to get back home pretty quickly. So anyway.
So with Senator Blunt obviously retiring, is Senator Hawley going to pick this agricultural advisory committee up?
Oh, yes, I believe so. I'm 100% certain that he will continue in that vein with that as well. And so
good. That's
it's
good.
It's been a real good deal.
Don't want anything like that to, because somebody has decided to retire.
Yeah.
And
Nope,
then you're like, well, he's gone. We're not going to do it anymore. And gosh, you hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Nope. I'm 100% certain that it will continue in that
Good.
vein. So
Definitely.
anyway, so one thing I did want to mention too was, a while back we announced that we had decided we'd found that our emergency extrication equipment, jaws of what commonly known as jaws of life,
right.
but it's much more than jaws of life. It's jaws of life. It's rams, it's cutters, it's things. But at any rate, we had no really good functioning extrication equipment anymore in the county. So we did make a commitment to use. I don't know. I think we set aside about $120,000, $130,000 in ARPA funds to purchase new extrication equipment and get a set of this extrication equipment. The former extrication equipment they had consisted actually of a big hydraulic pump that had to be drug out with a gas motor. You had to get it started, and then the hydraulic equipment had to hook by hoses to this pump, and which, when it worked good, but they'd run into problems with the motor, with the pump itself. So at any rate, the newer up-to-date equipment runs on batteries, recharge batteries, but this is big stuff. This is heavy. This equipment it's a lug to pick up, and it's very up to date. So we did purchase 4 of those, and to make those available to all of the fire departments here based in the county, for Dent County Rural Fire, Montauk, Lennox, and Jadwin fire departments. And that equipment did come in, and they did have a training on that. They had a small training here a couple of weeks ago with the one set of equipment that was left here with Dent County Fire, and actually Dent County Fire actually already had to use that equipment to get somebody out of a vehicle in a wreck south of town. This is literally will be life-saving equipment. There will be people whose lives will be saved just because of the fact that, if there's a wreck south, west, whatever, the rural fire departments will get called out along with ambulance and the highway patrol, whatever. They many times are right there on the scene as quickly as anybody, but they will have the extrication equipment with them to where they can previously they had to wait for that extrication equipment to come from town with the ambulance crew in a separate vehicle. This extrication equipment is much more portable, will be housed in one of the trucks that the fire departments respond with, and they received about 4 hours of training with it last night out at the fire department. I wanted to get back in time to see that firsthand. I didn't. Wes Mowbray was able to go, and he actually talked to me this morning how awesome it was and how impressive the equipment was and what it could do. And,
I saw
how
the cars there and stuff.
And I do want to give a shout out to Whitaker Towing Auto Body and Automotive Whitakers down south of Salem. They actually hauled in all these vehicles and supplied them. Thanks so much to the Whitaker family for taking that time and that effort and all that, because today they got to go back and pick them things up. Now they've been all cut apart and take them back, but that was a great service for Whitakers to do that for the county, for the fire department folks to have vehicles to actually get their hands on and sit in and try to, cut open doors and cut off roofs and get that firsthand experience on how to use it. And so really appreciate Whitaker's doing that for the county fire department crews. So anyway, we got that.
There's an art to using that equipment.
Oh, it's got to be used right.
I think people think, they just go put the jaws of life in there and they pry open the doors. And now, if there's somebody in there and they're twisted up, they cannot just go do that to where it could compromise that person.
Well, and this equipment even has safety mechanisms built into it that if it's being handled incorrectly or at wrong angles and things that could damage the equipment itself, it will stop and you will turn it and get it right. So it's very good equipment. It was the best.
That's why this training is necessary.
That's why the training was necessary.
You've got to know what you're doing.
Yeah. So anyway, I did want to mention that. So other than that pretty well catches me up. So.
Fantastic. Well, we always appreciate our presiding commissioner coming in, spending some time with us, and getting you up to date on what's going on in your county. And I know Darrell had a chance to babysit a little bit in the last
We had the
couple of weeks
grandkids
back.
for a few days.
Had a couple of days that he could do
Yeah.
that, and that's always a good time. But
Right.
it doesn't stop the commitment of having to still go to these meetings and still cover the different things for the county, which obviously you had to do.
And get on the phone with.
You're
hours.
constantly
Yeah.
on the phone, and that's all part of what you have to do. And
Yeah.
so
Anyway,
but we want to thank Darrell for coming in. We've been doing this for a number of different years, and we're going to continue to do it for a few more years. Why not? Let's just do it.
You
right?
bet.
And Darrell's been very kind to continue to try and give you as much information. You're not going to find out about this other information he just gave you about Blunt or any of that anywhere. You're not going to find out about that till maybe even next week, and probably not in that kind of detail, because he'll report that at the next commissioner meeting on Monday.
I will.
So you're getting it right from the mouth
Right
of the
from
man
the-
there. You know,
right from the horse's mouth,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I didn't want to say horses.
Yeah, I've been called worse.
I bet you have. I know I have. Anyway, but nonetheless, it's direct to you, and that you get the opportunity to now know of things that go on at these meetings that you would not know otherwise.
Yep.
And that's what it's all about.
what
Keep
it's-
you informed.
That's what it's all about. So anyway,
All right,
I
we want
appreciate
to
the
thank
chance.
Darrell for doing this, and of course, here at KSMO Radio. We'll be back again in a couple of weeks.
Be September the 2nd, right?
Can you imagine that, Darrell? September?
Can't believe it. I don't know where the summer went.
Second.
It flew by. It baked us for a while, but we got good rain, good
Yeah,
weather.
it
So
was-
we'll be back September the 2nd on the radio. We do this every first and third Friday
Sir, you
of the
sure
month,
do.
right?
Yes, we do. And we want. This is not a free program. Darrell does pay for this program, and that has not changed. And we do want to remind everybody that this is done for your convenience. It also is streamed on KSMoRadio.com. We also store those streams on our YouTube once we are able to edit them, bring them down, take a little bit out there, just condense it, just a few seconds, not much.
I actually
And,
had somebody stop me one time to tell me that their cousin over in one of the Scandinavian countries had called him because he had heard us talking about something that piqued his interest. And I believe he was either in Norway or Sweden, but he had heard it while we were doing it. And now it was a little later in the afternoon, early evening, when we're on here at 8:30. I forget what time it was over there in that country. But at any rate, it shocked me when I found out we had our audience extended to Norway and Sweden.
So when
to
that
the
guy
program,
from Sweden
so-
comes and travels our county roads, he can comment on.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I know what
No,
that
he was
guy-
very pleased to hear, and I forget what the issue was.
I think it was on
but
property rights.
It
I think,
had to
as a
do
matter
with
of fact.
property
Yeah.
rights and government and United Nations and some of these things that we get into sometimes. And so at any rate, he was very complimentary. I was appreciated that. But this gentleman wanted me to know that his cousin had actually been listening and heard it. And so anyway, I do appreciate the chance to do it, though, Stan. And we will be back in a couple of weeks. And until then, I do hope everyone will be safe, happy, healthy, and God bless each and every one.